After just 1 month, gripgain.ca is already a spectacular success. It's delivering workouts of unprecedented accuracy and a suite of metrics that has further improved my own understanding of climbing performance. In the 30 days since launch, we've completely overhauled the core application logic, and it has evolved significantly past its already impressive starting point. Today, we're going to talk about the logic that drives the application and review the suite of metrics and how to interpret them. The GripGains program recognizes that grip training is a years-long endeavor. We aren't about small improvements here. We're about multiples of your current performance. We call this process evolution. For the first 30 sessions, you are an unhatched egg, and there are no metrics presented in the application. Full evolution requires 500 sessions with a target of 100 sessions per year. 1 month since launch, eggs are now beginning to hatch. At this point, the metrics page begins to populate and your journey begins in earnest. There's a lot of hype around AI algorithms. Every product claims to be powered by AI. However, the name, artificial intelligence, is itself a misnomer. The defining characteristic of these systems is that they lack intelligence. They contain vast quantities of information, but no reasoning ability. They're lossy compression algorithms of the internet itself, a simple probabilistic representation of their training data. In the case of modern LLMs, this training data comes from highly questionable sources. You aren't going to be on the cutting edge in any field using these information sources, and that includes training for rock climbing. Worse, AI-generated content is starting to dominate the discourse in these spaces that is used to train AI itself, leading to a phenomenon called model collapse, an infinite regress of bad information. As the saying goes, it's turtles all the way down. Prior to the hype around these glorified search engines, there was an older approach to AI systems that actually attempted to replicate human decision-making. Expert systems attempted to replicate the decision-making of high-level experts in a given field using an inference engine, which applied decision-making rules derived from real experts. These systems were ultimately superseded by artificial neural networks because they were expensive to create and maintain. Despite these disadvantages, expert systems remain the preferred AI tool in fields that require rule-based reasoning that emulates the judgment and behavior of a human expert in a specific domain, such as coaching. Unlike hype-based training programs using AI, GripGains is closer to an expert system. My goal with this program was to create a personal climbing coach that would monitor my progress and prescribe workouts. Over years and hundreds of workouts, I evolved the system to be exactly this. It prescribes workouts and then provides metrics which evaluate performance. This creates an addictive gameplay loop that drives long-term progression. GripGains 1.0 was launched September 4th, 2025. It was already the most advanced suite of climbing metrics in the world by a huge margin. 1 month later, we've completely rebuilt the core logic chain, and now it's on an entirely new level. Let's look at the raw data that powers the entire GripGains process. This is the isometric force curve for FDP, which is trained in GripGains using the Hand of God micro. GripGains prescribes a variety of workouts along this force curve according to your training emphasis to build the full performance profile required for success in rock climbing: power, strength, and endurance. The 1.0 workflow was as follows. A curve is constructed from your performance data. A workout is prescribed based on that curve. Performance is recorded and used to refine the curve for the next workout. And then finally, metrics are generated for tracking short-term and long-term performance. The 2.0 upgrade takes things to the next level. The curve now updates every single session to give you the most up-to-date targets possible. Additionally, we now look at the dispersion around your curve to determine short-term performance and automatically adjust targets up or down dynamically. This leads to incredible predictions that have an almost magic feel to them. I've been training on this system for many years, but the workouts since GripGains 2.0 have been incredible. It's one session after another where the model prediction and my actual performance line up on a one-to-one basis. With the app being so in tune with my current performance, it allows me to push harder into those RPE 10 workouts, knowing that what GripGains recommends is 100% achievable based on my own past performance. The new upgrade significantly improves our ability to calculate accurate metrics. We now have the incredible ability to accurately look anywhere along the performance curve and translate that into an accurate 1 rep max value. For example, we can look at a 4-minute hold and then accurately tell you what that represents in terms of your 1 rep max. We do this through complex analysis of the entire point cloud in your training history. This accurate translation into 1 rep max at all exercise points along the force curve allow us to construct the following metric. This shows a history of your PRs for each and every workout. This chart shows both long-term and short-term performance trends. There are endless interesting observations you can make from this particular graph. For example, looking at my data for the Hand of God Micro, you can see characteristic flat plateaus. These correspond to performance season where I back off grip training entirely. What this beautifully illustrates is that climbing alone is sufficient to maintain my current levels of athletic performance, but it has zero impact on improving long-term progress. This is exactly what you'd expect, and this is the reason for the universal experience of the long-term plateau and advanced trainees. There's a lot of useful information from PR values in terms of your short-term and longer-term performance, but they are very poor predictors of climbing performance. They are much better indicators of short-term trends and accumulating fatigue. With that in mind, from the PR chart, we derive the next metric, performance trend. To construct this chart, we take your PR values, convert them into a rank, and then compare it to a calculation of short-term and long-term training volume. This allows you to precisely identify when training volume exceeds recovery capacity, enabling precise titration of training volume and complex strategies of functional overreaching. I use this metric to plan and refine my off-season volume pulses. By calculating your force curve every session, we can construct what we refer to as the God metric. We calculate the area under the force curve as a metric called total capacity. What this represents is your cumulative, long-term training progress in all domains. This is the true source of your Pokemon evolution. It is a long-term metric that is slow to shift but represents progress through entire consolidated V grades. This is how you move into entirely new categories of climbing. We further break this down into performance domains of power, strength, and endurance, which gives critical insight into what's driving that long-term performance gain and where you need to focus for the greatest future gains. We can compare the capacity of micro versus crusher to get a detailed picture of your relative flexor balance across all domains in the force curve. The final force curve metric we look at is the endurance ceiling. This is a measure of the exponential portion of the force curve. This provides insight additional to the endurance area under the curve metric, and it is much more sensitive to short-term variation in metabolic conditioning. For example, you can see that as my performance season progressed and I focused on sending my project, my metabolic condition declined precipitously. This is what you'd expect, since I was doing 3 to 5 send-goes per session and very little climbing or training volume. What follows is you can see a spike in my metabolic conditioning during my winter training season that followed. Here again, you can see a spike in the metabolic conditioning during my summer training cycle, getting ready for fall season. If you have long projects, an upcoming road trip, or you're a sport climber, this metric is a key insight into your current level of metabolic conditioning. These advanced metrics have allowed us to construct a community leaderboard for the Grip Gains community. Everything on this leaderboard is carefully chosen to be motivational for the community as a whole, not to promote excessive competition or scoring social media points. Our main metric is improvement. We look at the percentage improvement in the capacity metrics. This is the hardest metric of all to improve on, and we base it on your own starting performance. This puts everybody on an equal playing field and gives everybody a chance to top the leaderboard. We track both 30-day and 365-day volume. Users with the highest adherence will top this leaderboard. We have a live updating feed of recent sessions and recent PRs that I check a few times a day just to watch people grind out their sessions. Finally, we have a leaderboard for PR values according to your given category so that you can compete against peers at your own level for those PR values. The metrics page we've built give you unprecedented insight into your performance. Your evolution starts with session 1. Head to gripgain.ca, start your journey, and let's see how far you can go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the leaderboard.